So I think this week we're going to start with the upcoming big AEW show that's this weekend. That's AEW Collision. Currently, they have sold 8,600 tickets. That is a little bit shy of the 20,000 plus that the United Center can hold. From the images I'm looking at right now, they are selling just the TV side of things so far, and I think that's what they'll all sell because as of right now, they've only sold 8,600 tickets out of 9,400 they're currently trying to sell. But this weekend, AEW Collision, CM Punk makes his return with FTR against Jay White, Samoa Joe, and Juice Robinson. The TNT title is going to be on the line. It's not necessarily a pay-per-view event, but it is a big deal because it reminds you a lot of the debut of Rampage, which I thought at that time Rampage was going to be like what Collision is supposed to be. But imagine Rampage now is going to get delegated to the velocity of AEW or the Sunday Night Heat.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, and we were just talking before we got on, and how I felt about Dynamite this week and the way they just presented the entire show, to me it was like this souped up, really go home show before a pay-per-view, even though it's Collision. I feel like they're treating it like a pay-per-view. Obviously they are with CM Punk involved. It's interesting how they were doing it. I thought Dynamite this week was pretty good. I enjoyed everything about the show. And it was, to me, it was just they were trying to set up what's going to happen in just a few days. And as a recording, it's going to be coming up here pretty quick. It's going to be a good show.
So, are you going to watch Collision live?
It depends. I might. It all depends on where I'm at on the weekend. I don't know.
So essentially, it isn't like a pay-per-view priority in that sense, because I would say you're going to watch this live, and you say yes. Here you're saying it depends.
It does. It really does depend because it's Saturday night. I'm not sure where I'm going to be per se. If I'm in the right spot at the right time, it's going on the TV. That's where I'm at. I am going to make it. It's going to be something I will watch over.
So I guess the question that I ask you is: Collision going forward going to be appointment television?
Probably.
Is it going to be? Are you going to treat it like Raw and SmackDown?
Probably not. Let me rephrase. Let me take it
based on what they're offering, what the matches are.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it could be a week-to-week thing. It could also be if they really knock it out of the park on Saturday, I will. Maybe I'll watch it for a few weeks and see where we're at.
What do you make of this Saturday time slot? That this is a big undertaking for AEW because obviously people have been getting on AEW anyways for a lot of the attendance things. One thing I will say is upcoming, and I wish I was going to be around, the second episode of Collision. I believe it's the second episode. It is, okay, so it's I think the third episode because this one's the first, next week's the second. So it's the third one, right before what will be right after AEW Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
The one in Hamilton, Ontario. They had a promotion where you could, and I checked into it. I saw it online. I looked into it, and it was real. The tickets for second row tickets for this episode of Collision, which is in Hamilton, which is going to take place the next day after Dynamite. So Hamilton, Ontario is getting Dynamite and Collision. So they're doing back-to-back shows in Hamilton, Ontario. WWE, they don't go to Hamilton often. Sometimes it's for house shows. AEW is going there for back-to-back TV tapings.
Why is that? Do we know? Is there like a special market there or something? Like what? I mean, what are we
not
doing?
that I'm aware of,
Yeah.
and this is going to kind of prove that maybe not so much so. Second row is still available for Collision, which is going to be taped on Thursday, right? $129. That's in WWE terms, that's a fair price for second row on the floor. I mean, right on the rampway. All right. I understand, far back floor seats. Those are not that worth it, but this is second row. You're going to be on TV. You're going to be able to slap hands with the wrestlers as they come by, that kind of thing. $129 a ticket, a fair price for what that is, but they were running a deal. If you bought 4 tickets, with the AEW promotion, and I checked into it, and boy, I mean, I kind of wanted to check, and I wanted to go.
You're about to jump
4
on.
tickets, $25 a piece.
Wow.
So $129 for one ticket, $100 even, and this is Canadian. I think it equal out to be like $120 after fees, but Canadian, that would probably drop you down to about a total of $90 American. So $90 American for 4 second row seats on the floor for a TV taping of a show.
I mean, that's a good deal for the consumer, but like my initial thought is, okay, so like you're essentially trying to give away these tickets. Like, are you having a hard time selling them?
So, I mean, and that's difficult because again, that's talking week 3 of Collision. right? And we
Yeah.
already talked about how they're only drawing 9,000 or something at Hope this weekend for Collision. So it is tough. I am curious. Obviously, Rampage is never going to be a standalone thing. It was a few times a standalone show. They did a couple special live Rampage tapings. I can't imagine they'll obviously do those ever again.
Yeah. No.
But this is just tough. Saturday night's a tough one. A lot of people say Saturday night's easier because people have the night off. Easier to attend, maybe, but obviously when it comes to the viewership, that's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of times they're going to be going up against WWE pay-per-view events, whether it's Money in the Bank. They're not going to be going up against it live, crowd to crowd, but that one in Hamilton's going to be going up against Money in the Bank TV time. I believe so. Actually, that might not because of the time difference. But either way, SummerSlam, Payback, which was just announced for WWE in September. Those are Saturday pay-per-views that it's going to be going up against. It's going to be going up against the occasional UFC pay-per-view. So it's a unique time slot for this
by the way,
secondary show.
You mentioned that with UFC. That's interesting because I feel like a lot of WWE and UFC fans are one. So, I'm curious to see how much that's going to affect things.
Well, so far it hasn't affected WWE with these pay-per-views. I mean, I understand that they haven't really gone up against a lot of UFC pay-per-views. I
guess it depends on the caliber of the card for UFC too. Because if it's a big name card, I don't know. I don't follow UFC like I do WWE, obviously. So I don't know what
and
the cards
that's the thing. WWE is going on Saturday nights, and they've been going on Saturday nights, but these are for once a month pay-per-view specials. This is a weekly show, and I just feel like, even back in the day, like WCW Saturday night, I don't know how many of those were taped, live, that kind of thing. I don't know how great a ratings those did in comparison of a Monday Night Raw in its prime. I watched a lot of those Sunday night, Saturday night, midnight Jacks and Shotgun Saturday night shows. But those were at midnight. I was a kid.
Yep, I did it too.
So
we all did it. I used to watch Velocity back in the day. You know what I mean? I did all that stuff.
Again, though, we were kids, though. So our Saturday nights were a little more restricted as well. And even those, I probably missed a bunch going out to eat, going to someone's house, that kind of stuff. Nigel McGuinness, I'm seeing he's going to be on the broadcast.
Kevin
It's been
Kelly.
a minute.
Wow.
So it's going to have a little bit of a Ring of Honor, NXT, WWE vibe. With Kevin Kelly, he's a big New Japan guy. Nigel McGuinness, obviously, his time in NXT UK.
And obviously Jim Ross.
Obviously, there's no need there. But it's going to be curious. I'm going to tune in, probably not live. I'm going to be at another wrestling show somewhere else. But I'll check out the highlights. I just think, I just don't think this is the greatest idea. You're going to be running 2 live shows. I don't know how great this is. I'm just afraid that AEW is going to have to start, because at the time, Raw, when they moved to SmackDown, they were not doing secondary arenas. They're doing Madison Square Garden. They're doing the main arenas in 1999. And WWE, could afford to do that at the time. And again, even the thing is, WWE, they've had their lulls in the story. They've had their lulls in the time. There was times where SmackDown, not just new, but, later on started, fall off in the sense of attendance and, blocking off seats. So WWE's had their ups and downs. So AEW's going to have 2 shows. And I just feel like they're going into a dull. They're going into a lull, like the down part of the valley, because Dynamite attendance has been struggling. Everybody knows we talked about the last pay-per-view in Las Vegas and how that was one of the least attended times they've been to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So for them to be taking on a second show in the middle of this right now is unique.
Here's what I want to say too. You just brought up a point where you mentioned Vegas. So for me, is it more so? Maybe it's a combination. I feel like they're oversaturated in certain cities. They go to Chicago all the time. They've gone to Vegas enough times. I feel like they go to the same cities too often. Where I feel like they need to stop. They got to spread it out because when people have seen your show once,
obviously, the London thing for both WWE and AEW is a pure example. They are, for all intents and purposes, going to get 60,000 plus people at that London show in September.
But it's a supply and demand thing. The demand for the shows in the UK are much higher than what these promotions are going to give. So anytime you go there, there's the big numbers because, okay, then you can say, okay, we don't know when they're coming back again, so I want to make sure I'm there. It's not like when we're here in the States, like, okay, well, they're in Albany this week or they're in Rochester. Yeah. Like, okay, we've all been there a few times. It's, I mean, in your case, you've been there a million times.
Yes.
But it's, for that's why these.
You can have like season tickets.
Yeah, at this point, yes. You really, for you specifically, yes. Mm-hmm. But in general, it's like it's a demand supply situation. I think that's part of it for me, because when you go to the same cities too often, like these people live, like a lot of the times you have the folks that live in the Chicagos of the world, they have other things they can go to, like especially if it's baseball season, they might want to go to a Cubs or a White Sox game, or Bulls are playing. There's so much more competition.
It's also just, it's not even the competition a lot of times too. It's just, there's a lot, if you're a wrestling fan, there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of shows to go to. You can't go to them all. They're not, these big time, once in a lifetime things.
I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, I know the attendance is what it is. We all get that. Depending on who you follow on social media, they're going to report how they report it and all this. Do you think the product itself, from storytelling, matches, the whole package, do you think it's a good show right now?
AEW you're talking about?
Yes.
I think it is in one of its lulls. I think they have definitely been hotter. I'm not even just saying when they were new. I've even said, maybe even a year and a half in. Maybe just right post-pandemic.
Let me ask you,
they've been hotter than they are.
But is it still a quality product right now? I still think it is.
I don't think AEW has ever really not been a quality product. I just feel like, it's an interesting time to be taking on. I think, if you want to talk about competition, WWE being as hot as that is right now is not helping AEW.
No, because WWE is on a roll right now. Like, I mean, you're onto something there, because when WWE was, we talked about it on many occasions over the years, their numbers on television,
obviously, just focusing on in the middle of the pandemic. If I was forced to watch one of the shows during the pandemic, whether it be WWE during the Thunderdome or AEW, I'm watching AEW for the most part there.
Yeah, I mean, it was more entertaining. Yeah. I mean that's the fact. Like they did it at Dealey's. What was it? Dealey's
place in Jacksonville.
For all intents and purposes, they were putting on better shows than WWE during that time. And obviously, with everything, with Vince, out of the picture at this point, WWE has taken that momentum from what AEW had and said, nope, we're going to take that momentum and we're going to take that train and just keep moving, because WWE is they're on fire on all cylinders right now. I mean, the way they're booking things. I mean, of course, they're not going to book it perfectly from our perspective, but for the most part, the way these titles are being held and the matches that they're having, I feel like WWE is they're putting together a better story. AEW, to me, the matches are always good, but I don't know half the time what the story is.
There's no story right now like the Bloodline in the world of professional wrestling. Staying on the Collision stuff, though, obviously we talked about the attendance for this week. Next week, Collision will be aired live on Saturday, June 24th from Toronto, which is a night before AEW Forbidden Door. AEW Forbidden Door, I think the tickets for that have been selling all right. They're not getting 20,000 for that like the arena can hold, but I think they're going to draw probably 12 or 13 for AEW Forbidden Door. But the night before, we're looking at Collision, and as of right now, they've only distributed 2,500 tickets for Scotiabank Arena. They currently are setting it up for 5,400 tickets. So they're only trying to sell 5,400 at Scotiabank Arena. And they are currently running a deal. If you buy 4 tickets for lower level, because they're only selling lower level, so you're going to get lower level. I don't even have to advertise that because that's all they're even selling.
Yeah.
$1,650 a ticket.
Good price. And here's the funny thing, the funny stat there, according to,
and that could be Canadian. I'm not even looking into it right now.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're not.
That could be lower.
It could be like what, 12?
Could be 12.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I'm looking at the numbers here, and if you're looking at some great stats, you can always go to and Jared turned me on to them, is at WrestleTix. They put out some good information. Here's the numbers that I'm looking at. I'm a numbers guy. So the current setup is 5,417 to be exact. So the tickets that have been distributed is 2,523. The available is $2,894. So not even half the tickets have been.
So there's more tickets.
Yeah.
There's more tickets for sale than have been sold.
That's crazy.
And I mean, right now, what I'm looking at, and I know you're only selling the TV side, and it's right now, I mean, if it looks anything like it does, and it's only 8 days away, I mean, it's going to have to be a pretty darkened crowd, because it looks like, I mean, we're talking a section that is on television, like not dead center to the ring, but next to the ring, is almost completely empty.
Yeah, it really is.
From row 1 to the top.
I mean, I'm looking here. You can I'm looking at like the map here. You can go you won't really see yourself on TV side, but if you were using it like WWE standards, like where the announce table is, if I'm looking at the ring correctly, they got seats pretty close to the ring available, like whole rows. It looks like there. That's not good.
I said, and $16.50 to get in.
That's a reasonable night out.
But these are just the first, and we talked about, like I said, the third Collision is going to be in Hamilton, and they are currently struggling to sell tickets for that one. I'll see if I can pull up any other Collision numbers here that are coming up. But yeah, they're struggling to sell tickets for that Collision.
Dynamite, oof.
Yeah, the current setup for Collision in Hamilton, which will be episode number 3, is only for 3,000 tickets. Right now, they've sold 883 tickets for that. So, I mean, yeah, they haven't been to Canada a lot, but we talk about go places you haven't been. They're going places they haven't been, but the issue is they're going there for Dynamite the night before. That's the problem. If WWE was going to London, and if they haven't been there in a while, but then they're going there like 7 nights in a row, and they're bringing you, dark matches and stuff like that, they're gonna struggle with tickets too.
I'm just looking here, like for example, like WWE Super Show,
house show, yeah, this Sunday night in Charleston, West Virginia. That's what I mean, though.
It's a house show. This is a house show, and they only have 680 tickets available.
Yeah, they're trying to sell 4,500. Yeah,
I mean that's WWE live. Like
but the issue is again too, because a lot of these places, whether it's Toronto, all right, or Hamilton, they're running, other shows there that week. I mean, here's the thing. If I was going to be around next Sunday night, I would, without a doubt, go to Toronto to see AEW. Would it be Collision? No. It'd be the pay-per-view. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because the pay-per-view tickets are pretty affordable as well. If I was going to go to Hamilton, I'd probably thought I was going to go to Dynamite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think the best idea for Collision, which you're not going to do, they're kind of too far in, but maybe in the future, if this ends up being a big bomb, is do kind of what WWE back, when Monday Night Raw hit the air, it was from the small little venue, drew a few hundred.
Hey,
maybe that could be something. Well, I'm not even saying something like that. I'm saying small venues. I'm saying like some sort of like studio kind of setup, WCW Saturday Night was back in the day. It was this like studio, like Impact Zone. Back in the day, Impact, regardless of the ratings, they're always full.
You're a historian on this. Didn't WWE go to like Glens Falls? Like back in the day, like didn't they go to like small venue? Like I remember places like it was like literally they almost looked like barns in WWE, and they were Raws.
Yeah, and I think not necessarily even traveling too. Like I said, like WCW Saturday Night, the old Monday Night Raws that were at the Manhattan Center. Just in general, going to like a studio, doing the Impact Zone. The Impact Zone is a perfect example of that, right?
Yep.
Or as they've been doing AEW Dark tapings down at Universal Studio, which I think is the old Impact Zone. You might have to just start taping your Collisions from there. Or another modern example, can't believe I didn't think about this. Obviously, what NXT does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That might be your future for Collision if, this doesn't work out. It might have to be an NXT kind of setup somewhere in Florida where you just get the same kind of crowd over and over again, free tickets with the, admission to the amusement park or something stupid, and go check out a taping of Collision. Because right now, like I said, it is tough. And I'm very curious. Overall, the success of Collision, I'll say by December. Let's just say by December, we're going to give an early guess. Dynamite and Collision, both on cable television, both running. Yes or no?
No.
All right. I have to say, too, it's tough, obviously, because these are the first couple weeks of the show, and they're already struggling. So time will tell how popular Collision is. It's definitely not what Rampage was when CM Punk made his debut in AEW. His return is not drawing the numbers as expected, but... they still got the TV time, which is where they get their bread and butter there. And we'll see how popular Collision is going forward. I'll keep my eyes on this week, and only time will tell when it comes to that.